Welcome back to the Naughty Donkey. Hey, today we've got a little project. We're going to be replacing the front struts on the 2017 Buick Enclave. We've got the rear shocks to do as well, but we'll probably do that on another video. Anyway, 70-some thousand miles, getting pretty clunky, so we got to step it up and swap those babies out. Okay, so in order to swap the struts out, we'll have to have access to the top of the struts to get to those bolts. So we'll have to remove this panel in order to remove this panel. And to remove this panel, we'll have to remove the windshield wipers as well. So there's a whole bunch of these tabs like this. So just get yourself a container to put them in. Just pop this first part up. Get in. You can get in with a screwdriver, or you can use one of these tools. Then get underneath it. Pop the rest of it out. Get something to keep them in so you don't lose them. So we'll go ahead and pop the rest of these out, then we'll jump back to that one. Okay, so right here on the back where the two cowls come together, make sure you get your screwdriver underneath. There's one little tab there that you got to pull out. See it right there, guys? And then one here on the end. That one didn't come out, so I'll have to reinsert it. But anyway, if you don't get that loose, you won't be able to pull this up out of here like yay. Okay, so we'll go get the other side, then set this off out of the way. All right, once you got those ends undone, just pick it up here in the center and set it off to the side somewhere where you won't step on it. Now we'll start, we got to remove these little end tabs, okay? So the same thing, just get underneath your little grommet and pop it up out of there. Careful of the paint job. If you need to use tape or something, just stay away from it, that's good. Just like that, okay? Now that we got this corner loose, guys, there's a little tab right under here. So just put your fingers underneath so we can pop that right up out of there without tearing it. And it slides right out. So same thing on the other side. Then next we're going to go to the wipers. For those, you just put something underneath. It can be a screwdriver or your tool here, and pop this up. And that'll give you access to this. I believe it's a 15 millimeter. So after we pop that up, just use our 15 millimeter. Loosen that nut up. So we don't lose the nut, we'll put it back on the shaft once we get this up off of here. Usually these might take some jiggling back and forth to get off. They can be a little bit of a pain in the butt, so just so you know. All right, so once you get the wiper blades off, those can be a pain a little bit. So after you get the nut taken off, then just pull it away from the windshield a little bit and jiggle it back and forth as if they were in the motion of being used. That'll loosen them up quite a bit. Then you can pull up at the bottom and they will come off. Don't be afraid of doing it. It takes a little bit though. So after you get that off, you're gonna have to take off this grounding bolt here. So that's right by the battery. So that's the same 15 millimeter. And I'm just gonna slip it right in this hole here so I know it'll be there. Then you're gonna have, looks like 4 of these again. These little plastic grommet things. So go ahead and pop those 4 out. And then remember to put everything in your bucket. Okay, so we have that ground bolt loose. We have all the grommets out, windshield wipers loose. So now we're gonna just pull it up and see. Okay, it looks like we do have to do something with this windshield washer line. So I'm just gonna pull it up out of the crack and try to keep it out of the way. Should be all right. So definitely don't want to damage that. And we'll just see what happens here. A little gentle tugging. There we go. There's little clips that go underneath the very edge of the windshield. So when you're putting it back in, we want to make sure and slide those in. These ones right here. Okay. So let's take that out the other way. And remember, put everything off where you won't step on it. Okay. So our next step was jack it up off the ground and take the wheel off. I'm just doing one side at a time right now. Make sure you place your safety stands under an area that will support the vehicle, so somewhere on the frame or a designated jacking spot. Okay, then what I did is, since we'll be popping the strut out of there, I got a bungee cord so it'll keep the axle from coming loose and sliding out of the CV axle. So I'm going to hook that in a position where I can not have that fall out. Okay, then our first step is going to be for this wheel speed sensor. We use our removal tool again to pop those babies out of there. Okay, there's one there, and then right behind the spindle bolt, there's another one. So just pop those out and so it's hanging free. Then our next step, remember to use your bungee cord. I may have to loosen that temporarily, but I don't think so. So then we need to get this off up here. Okay, to pop this loose, I had to put a vice grip right on the very back of the bracket, not on the back of the unit itself. And then spun that loose. I used a 19 millimeter deep well. So there you have that. So I'm just going to leave the vice grip on there for tightening it. Scooch it all off to the side. So now we should move on to these, and then we'll move up top. So this should be all we need to do, guys. There we go. So one thing's for sure, you're going to need an alignment after doing this job. So, but in order to keep it kind of close, just run your Sharpie right along the edge of this here, and this will be your line to mark it back up with before you pull those bolts all the way out. Okay, it's pretty important. Again, you will need an alignment. I would get one within 1 or 200 miles, but this will just get you pretty close. These, I believe, you're gonna have to drive out. So the end is tapered, so you should be okay without messing up the threads. Just drive these out. Remember, we're going to want to make sure that our spindle doesn't drop and have the axle pull out. There we go. Okay, so we got those out. I'm just going to test drive my, looks like my bungee cord is going to work for now. And then I'm going to loosen the top, and we should be able to pull that strut assembly out of there. See how it's all loose here, guys? So make sure you do this, though. You don't want the axle coming out. All right, so now we're going to go up top. Okay, guys, so now we're at the top. So we're going to loosen all of these, and we'll take out completely 2 of them, but leave 1 still attached. And I'm going to make that probably the closest one to me. And we'll get to that in just a minute, the reason for that. So my impact won't reach in there, so I got to do it old school, but a little exercise anyway. All right, so when I take out my top last nut, I have the full weight of the strut now. So we got to be careful where we slide it out. So we're going to want to go down between the CV axle and that speed sensor. Just kind of angle it out this way and pull it out gently. Make sure you don't hang up on that speed sensor or anything. So there you have it, it's out. So we'll grab the other one, and everything, the bolts look the same and the mounts look the same. So we should be in good shape. So we'll go ahead and slide this one back in, then we'll torque it all down, put together this side. All right, guys, so for this part, again, be attentive of your brake lines and the vehicle speed sensor and all that. So, and your paint job. Wrestle it down in there. And you can see I had to slide the bottom between the CV axle and the tie rod. And slide it up in there. Okay, there we go. So just hold it up in. It's pretty heavy. If you have a helper, it'd be good. And just get 1 stud started on there. Okay, so for that part, you may need a helper. But again, get all 3. After you get 1 on, you can take a break for a second and push it back up through there and get your other 2 nuts started. So now these, we're going to snug them up a little bit, okay? But we don't want to tighten them all the way until we get that bottom in place. Otherwise, it's just too hard to wrestle it around. So I'm just throwing enough threads on these to be sure that it couldn't possibly come loose or anything. And just get it, like I say, you got a lot. They're very long threads. You can go quite a ways, but leave yourself some wiggle room underneath here. So now you see the importance of leaving some wiggle room for yourself. So then line it up here. Put your bolts back through the way you took them out. So the nut's going to go on the front. Get those in there. And then get your bottom one in. Then we'll drive them back through. Okay, so remember we made our Sharpie line in here. So with that, we're going to push this into place to where you can see the Sharpie line on the bracket here. See how it's not there? Right there, it's right about where it needs to be. So I'm going to tighten these up, and then we'll torque them afterwards, and I'll put the spec on the video. Okay, so then reattach your sway bar back here, and We're going to tighten it up pretty close and then torque it to 59 pounds. So we reattached the sway bar right here. Push the stud through, put your nut on it, and then we're going to torque it to 59 pounds. So I'm just going to snug it up a little bit first. Okay, there she's torqued down to 59 pounds. So next step, take your vice grip off the back, get that out of the way. Then we're going to reattach this wheel speed sensor. Just push that right back through there. Make sure it comes all the way up through. And then the other one back here, right here in this top hole. Okay. And just push them until they're all the way through. And you should be in good shape. So now this side, we just have the top strut nuts to do. And we're taking our bungee cord off. And we could put the wheel on right now for safety. So I think we'll go ahead and slap that on real quick. Okay, so right before we put the wheel back on though, the wheel and tire assembly, we took the 2 main strut mounting bolts off. So we put those back on and we torqued them. We took the sway bar linkage off, we reattached it and torqued it. We took off the wheel speed sensor, we reattached that, okay? We took our bungee cord off. So this side, we've double checked it, triple checked it, we should be in good shape. So remember, torque specs, follow them for everything, and double check all your work, and you won't have any comebacks if you're doing it for a living, and you won't have your wife angry at you when she's sitting on the side of the road at night. So now the top strut, we're going to torque to 33 pounds each. Okay, so 33 comes pretty quick and easy after those other higher numbers, but it's very important to do that. Okay, and after the last one, I just jump over the first one, click it, click the next one. So I'm just double checking them all. That's really all I'm doing. All right, so that's side 1, guys. Side 2 is going to be exactly the same. So we're going to do that. Now we are going to set the torque specs on the wheel and tire assembly. I just want to crank the torque wrench all the way up there 2 times in a row. I just have this tightened up but not torqued yet. So we'll torque that when we put the other one back on. All right, so I went ahead and got the wheel and tire assembly off. You can see I got a safety stand under here. Always use a safety stand. I put some penetrating oil on this and on the sway bar because it's a little rusty. So go ahead and put your bungee cord on to support everything. Then we're going to pop this loose, the wheel speed sensor again. So these generally can break pretty easily, so I try to not muck them up. Just wiggle them a little. There we go. And then also on the back side right here. Okay, make sure we got this nice and slack. And then what I did up here, guys, is I already took 2 of the 3 top strut bolts loose. I got them here, so I left one on just to support everything. So our next step is going to be tackling the sway bar and then these big babies again. So I rattle gunned them off, and then we're just going to knock them out like we did the other side. Make sure you have your bungee strap on, just like we did. And I've already marked with my Sharpie the alignment mark. Again, I'm scheduled for tomorrow morning for the alignment. So if you do have to schedule in advance so you can get the, don't wear your tires out too much. Okay, so those are out. And then I went ahead and took off the sway bar nut, same as last time. Put your vice grip on the back, tighten it up real tight, nice and close. So that's ready. So we're basically ready to pull our strut. So same as last time, just take this loose, just scooch it out of the way. We have this being supported, and then we should be good. I'm just gonna wiggle it loose a little bit here, make sure I got play, and then hold it up and take the last few threads out of that bolt from the top, that nut. And it'll drop back out of there just like the other side did. So again, you may need a helper for this. Just kind of depends on how strong you are. But when you take it out, be careful of your wiring and all that stuff. Okay, so there we go. Same as the other side. So right back to reverse. Put this down between so you don't mess up the wiring. Line it up to the top. Grab one of your nuts. Get a few good threads on there. Make sure it's not going anywhere. There we go. You can take a break for a second if you need it. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and start those other couple nuts on the top just to have it ready for me. Okay, so you may have to twist it a little bit to get it lined up and scooch it in there. Then we'll put our bolts through just like before. Then we'll go ahead and let the ratchet pull them in tight. And when I am tightening them down, I'm going to be holding it in position to my Sharpie line. You can see the black line there, so I will be holding it as close as I can to that. Again, it's getting the line tomorrow morning, so it's not a big deal, but it's just nice to have them as close as you can. So we got those situated. I'm going to go ahead and slide this back through. This one can be a little tough, guys, because you got to use your muscles for it. So maybe I'll come up with a better method for that. We'll see. Maybe right now I'll try something. So this can be quite a bear, as you guys can see. So I'm going to try to pry from here. There, it looks like that's going to give me just what I need.
All right, maybe show us one more time what you did.
Okay, so I just went over the top of the sway bar, underneath the A-frame, then just push down. That gave me plenty of movement, as you guys can see there. Okay, so it's a good little cheater method. And just start your nut on there. I'm not going to tighten that down until I get these back through. But that's why I left the vice grip on as well. Okay, so now we'll go back to this. And again, just get them till the threads, this part is in there, and then we'll pull them through with the impact ratchet. So I'm going to snug them up, and then we're going to torque these like we did the other side, then torque this, then we'll tighten up and torque the top ones. All right, so everything's on. We're going to start torquing. So this is 144 pounds. Okay, so then we're just going to re-torque the sway bar back to 59 pounds. Okay, there we go. So as you can see, I had to put quite a few extensions on to get out away from the body and stuff because of the length of my torque wrench. So, but there we have it, 59 pounds. So now we're going to reattach the wiring. And then all we have left, guys, is torque the top of the strut bolts and put this wheel back on. Okay, so remember, before you put the wheel on, triple check everything, that you took your bungee cord off, that you torqued these two bolts, that you torqued the bolt for the sway bar, and that you put all your wiring back in. All right, guys, then we're going to torque these to 33 pounds. And the last thing we'll have left is to torque the wheels. Okay, so 140 pounds. We'll jump over the other side and do the same thing. And then we'll just put all the cowling back together and take it for a test drive. Okay, guys, we're ready for just assembling all the cowling pieces and then the wiper blades, and we should be done. So we'll see if we can remember how to do this now. Actually, so one thing we do want to remember is these clips that go underneath the edge of the windshield. So we're going to slide that across and then get our wiper holes lined up and stuff. And then we'll make sure that we tilt it in the upward position so we can slide those clips underneath. These ones right here. Okay. Okay, and then on the edges here, you can see there's a little piece of rubber. You want to make sure you get underneath that. So you slide up under that. Then we'll go back to the other side, double check that, and then we should be able to tip it up and push it back to clip into the windshield. Okay, so here's that little rubber piece. So make sure it's free. Okay. Now we're going to tip up and line everything up and push it in place. And you should hear it snap pretty much. Remember your windshield washer fluid hose, so make sure you pull it up out of underneath there so it's not pinched, and then you can put it back in the groove now if you want to. Just snap it in place. And so one thing that I found out already when getting this back up in there is if you look from this back side, you can actually see a lot better to be sure your clips are underneath the edge of the windshield. So I'm going to run all the way along both sides, make sure they're under, then push it back in to get a better seal. Double check that you got a good tight seal all along the edge of the windshield there. That'll show you that your clips are in right. And these holes should pretty much line up. So remember, we had 4 of these were a slightly different size than the other, so I kept them separate. So we'll put those back in place and snap them in. Just run those 4 along the front. You want to remember, put your ground back on that you took off over here. Just hand tight, and then run it up with a 15 millimeter. Just needs to be snug, guys. Don't crank out from up here. You know, just give it a little power, but it doesn't need much. Okay, guys, so now I want to put the wiper blades on, and so the wiper arms. What I did is I intentionally put the passenger side one on the passenger side of the vehicle, so I wouldn't mix them up or anything. You probably could figure it out pretty quickly, but either way, it's just everything that saves time. So with this, I'm going to try to just get it aligned on that shaft in the lowest position where it's resting, so I won't have to adjust it any, because they're pretty tough to get off. You guys probably noticed that already. So I'm just going to get it on there, and then I'll run it down tight with the nut itself and a ratchet. So it's 15 millimeter. I'll just get it started. Again, when you run it out to the edge of the windshield over here, as far as where to tighten it down, just kind of go to where you see it's not down too far. Here, it's not up here somewhere. So see, it's in the resting spot there. That's where I pushed it onto the shaft, because it's got some little threads in there like gears. So now we'll tighten it down and do the same with the driver's side. And usually you'll see a little more thread sticking through when you're done. These will tighten down pretty well. If you look at the bottom of it, you can see where the black matches up with the aluminum there. So you know you're down all the way. So don't go cranking on these like King Kong, or you won't be happy, because it will definitely break them. And you can always retighten them later if you have to. So then I'll grab the driver's side, and we'll do the same exact thing. So again, I can see I don't want it down that low. I know it's going to want to set about in this area, so it's not interfering with the other one in its lowest point. So pull this side up a little so you can put pressure down here. Double check where it's resting. You can see it's no interference with the other wiper on the end, and then we'll tighten this down.